"I'm sorry, but you're not invited this year." That's all the message said. My daughter-in-law sent. Just family. Just them. Not me. Across the street, their house gleamed like something out of a magazine. Every window bright. The kind of Christmas people post about online. Inside, Megan, my daughter-in-law, directing carols and toasts. Lucas, my son, laughing a little too loudly, trying a little too hard to prove he belonged in their world. Crystal glasses, velvet dresses, gold everywhere. A Christmas built for pictures, not for memories. I stood in the snow, hidden in the shadows, feeling every bit the outsider. Maybe I always was. Their world was never made for women like me. Working hands, second-hand shoes, pies that never quite matched the tablecloth. Every holiday, I tried to fit in, grateful just to be allowed through the door. I brought the wrong dish, wore the wrong color, stayed quiet when conversation turned to vacations I'd never taken. Maybe that's what Megan saw. Someone who didn't belong. Someone who could never belong. Maybe Lucas saw it too, but never had the heart to tell me. If you've ever tried to swallow hurt, you know how it burns in your throat. But tonight, watching my own family celebrate without me, something inside me broke. Years of giving, years of hoping, suddenly, I was done. Done pretending, done begging. They wanted a Christmas without me. I'd let them have it. But what happens when a mother finally walks away? What I did next would change everything. Keep watching. The real story starts here. Long before snow ever covered the Bennett's roof, I was already familiar with cold. My name's Evelyn. I live in a little house on the edge of Millbrook, Illinois. I'm the nurse people call at midnight, the widow who never asks for help. My hands are rough. My patience is long. And I give more than I ever get back. I lost Bill to cancer before Lucas finished high school. Every meal, every mortgage payment since then. Just me and whatever overtime I could pull at St. Anne's. That's the kind of mother I am. Lucas was my whole world. He was always the boy who made teachers smile and old ladies laugh. The kind of son who thanked me for cold spaghetti and never complained about hand-me-downs. I raised him to work hard, dream big, and never forget where he came from. But after Bill died, everything changed. Lucas grew up fast, maybe too fast. I watched him leave for college with nothing but a thrift store suitcase and a head full of hope. I was proud and terrified and grateful every time the phone rang with his voice on the other end. Then came Megan. Megan Bennett never had to worry about bills or borrowed shoes. Her parents built the biggest house in town, threw the kind of parties where everyone wore name tags and nobody talked about money out loud. The first time I met her, Megan smiled with her lips, not her eyes. "Lucas talks about you all the time," she'd said. But somehow she never asked a single question. After the wedding, I kept my distance, careful not to crowd them, careful not to embarrass Lucas. But slowly, the requests started coming. A little help with the down payment, a loan for the new roof, a check to cover the difference. Just this once. Always at the end of the month, always with a promise it would be the last time. And every time I wrote a check, I reminded myself, this is what mothers do. Still, things felt different. Lucas called less. Megan asked for more. Sometimes when I dropped off groceries, I'd find Megan at the kitchen table talking numbers on the phone. Her voice sweet as syrup until she hung up. Once, she looked at me and said, It must be nice, Evelyn, not having to worry about status. I never knew if it was an insult or a wish. There were other things. A Christmas card that arrived without my name on it. A birthday party where I was handed a list of approved foods to bring. Lucas started talking about investments, opportunities, ways to make things easier for everyone. But whenever I pressed for details, he'd change the subject. "Don't stress, Mom. Megan's family knows what they're doing," he'd say. Sometimes I wondered if he believed it. Sometimes I wondered if he believed in anything but keeping up. Some nights I'd sit at my kitchen table, checkbook open, bills fanned out like bad playing cards, and wonder how I'd become the emergency fund no one ever thanked. I tried to tell myself I was lucky to be needed. But luck runs out. There's a difference between helping and being used. Sometimes you don't notice until you're empty. If you've ever given until there's nothing left, share your story below. Because sometimes the cracks in a family are the only things you can count on to show you the truth. It's funny how a family can unravel, stitch by invisible stitch. You never notice the hole until the wind comes through. After that Christmas card without my name, things shifted. Megan's requests became routine, her smiles more rare. Lucas seemed tired all the time, tired in his bones, like a man running a race he never signed up for. The mortgage help was never enough. There were always unexpected expenses. Megan sent polite reminders. "We're so grateful, Evelyn. Just one more month, I promise." But I noticed she never looked me in the eye anymore. One afternoon, I stopped by their place to drop off groceries. Through the window, I saw Megan on her phone, whispering. "We can't count on her forever," she said, voice tense. "She's not getting any younger. Dad says we have to be more strategic." For a moment, I wondered who "we" meant. I knocked. Megan answered with a quick rehearsed smile. The twins hugged me, sticky hands and laughter. Megan stood in the kitchen doorway, phone pressed to her side. "So sweet of you to come, Evelyn. Sorry. Busy morning." That night, Lucas called. His voice cracked. "It's just until my bonus comes in, Mom. Megan's worried about appearances. The Bennetts have standards. Nothing's ever enough for them." For a second, I almost said what I'd swallowed for years. "What about your standards, Lucas? When did you start measuring your worth in dinner parties and bank statements?" But I kept quiet, said I'd help, and put off fixing the leaky roof another month. It was always one more month. Meanwhile, Megan's family flourished. Diana hosted fundraisers for charities I'd never heard of. Gordon bought a new car, then another. Their Christmas parties grew. Live music, designer decorations, magazine photographers snapping away. But Lucas and Megan seemed to shrink inside all that shine. The bigger the celebration, the more Lucas drank. At one party, I caught him alone in the garage, staring at his phone. "You okay?" I asked. He flinched. "Fine, Mom. Just work stuff." But Megan grew more distant. I'd hear her on the phone late at night, doors closed, voice urgent. "No, she doesn't know. Lucas can't handle this. We'll figure something out." When I tried to ask about the calls, Megan brushed me off. "It's nothing, Evelyn. Just the usual family drama." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, measured, always coming up short. Then the hints grew sharper. I once found a spreadsheet left open on their kitchen counter, columns of numbers, lines of red. Emergency fund, Evelyn, it read. I stared at that line so long I almost forgot why I'd come. Megan entered, saw my face, and quickly shut the laptop. "Just sorting out some taxes," she said, her tone too light. That night I couldn't sleep. Lucas became secretive, skipping Sunday dinners, sending texts instead of calling. "Work's crazy, Mom. Next weekend, I promise." But the next weekend never came. When I finally got him on the phone, he sounded far away. "I'm trying, Mom. I just want everyone to be proud." "Proud of what?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. "Just everything. I know it's been a lot. I'm doing my best." I wanted to reach through the phone, to tell him I loved him no matter what, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the exhaustion in his voice, or the weight of all those secrets crowding the line between us. Not long after, I ran into Diana at the grocery store. She was all pearls and smiles. "Oh, Evelyn, Lucas and Megan are so lucky to have you. Not everyone is as giving as you are." She leaned in, her voice low. "You know, it's important for a family to keep up appearances. People talk, you know." It wasn't a compliment. It was a warning. The pressure grew. Bills stacked up at home. But every time Lucas or Megan called, I felt trapped by love and habit. "We just need a bridge, Mom. Just until after the holidays." But the holidays came and went, and still the requests continued. I borrowed against my retirement, skipped meals, pawned my grandmother's watch. Every month I told myself this would be the last time. But the last time never came. Some days I'd catch myself doing mental math in the grocery aisle, subtracting what I gave from what I needed. Once I picked up a bag of oranges for the twins, then put it back. "Next time," I told myself, though I knew there might not be a next time. Hints started to surface in other places, too. Megan would accidentally forward me emails about luxury trips she and Diana planned. "We can't wait for Paris in spring," right after I sent a check. Lucas mentioned a new business deal that was hush-hush, but game-changing. Then changed the subject whenever I asked how things were really going. I felt the shift. Me on the outside, them circling the wagons. Then one night, a strange number called. A woman's voice, low and hurried. "You don't know me, but you should be careful. Sometimes the people you help are the ones who hurt you most." She hung up before I could reply. I never told anyone, but the call stuck in my mind. A splinter under my skin. At church, old friends started avoiding my eyes. I heard whispers. "She's always bailing them out." When will she learn? I left early, walking home alone in the snow, feeling both exposed and invisible. And still, I kept giving, kept hoping love was enough to fix what I couldn't see. But love isn't always enough. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to lose yourself piece by piece, to watch your family drift away as you bleed for them, leave a comment below. Maybe your story is different, or maybe it's exactly the same, because the cracks in a family don't start with a bang. They start with a whisper, a secret, a favor you never thought you'd regret. And sometimes what's left unsaid is the most dangerous thing of all. I used to think you could fix anything with hard work and a little patience. But sometimes patience only lets the cracks grow deeper. Spring came late that year in Millbrook. I'd wake early to the sound of thawing ice, watch the Bennett's yard bloom while mine stayed brown, waiting. I took extra shifts at St. Anne's to cover the bills I'd been ignoring, my own roof starting to leak, the old boiler making noises I couldn't afford to fix. The mortgage for Lucas and Megan's house kept landing like clockwork. My account shrank, but the requests never did. Sometimes I wondered if Megan even realized how much she asked. I'd find her sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, credit card in hand, talking to her mother about necessary expenses. Megan would glance up at me, voice sugar-sweet, and say, "Oh, Evelyn, you're a lifesaver. I wish I could help you more, but you know how things are." Her nails were always done. She always looked untouched. One Sunday after church, I saw Megan and Diana in the grocery store. They were discussing catering for a summer party. Diana barely looked at me. Megan said, "Lucas is working so hard. We couldn't do any of this without your help." I nodded, too tired to argue. Diana smiled, a tight little curve of her lips. "Family takes care of family. At least some do." As spring faded, I noticed Lucas pulling away even more. The kids' birthdays came and went. I dropped off gifts, nothing too expensive, just puzzles and books I hoped they'd love. But Megan sent a thank you text, not a call. When I showed up at the house, Lucas was usually gone. "Sorry, work emergency," Megan would say, ushering me out before I'd even finished my tea. It started to feel like I was intruding on a life that no longer had room for me. One afternoon, I found a bill addressed to Lucas stuffed in my mailbox by mistake. Overdue notice, bright red stamp. My heart sank. When I asked Megan, she brushed it off. "It's just a paperwork thing. Lucas will handle it." But the next week, Lucas called desperate again. "Just this once, Mom. I swear. Next month will be different." It never was. One night I heard a rumor at church. Someone's nephew worked at a local bank. "The Bennetts are in trouble," the whispers went. "Lucas is drowning in loans." I told myself it was just talk. People in Millbrook always loved a little gossip. But still, I started to notice how Lucas flinched when I asked about money, how Megan avoided my eyes at family gatherings. But there were other changes. Megan's family seemed restless. Diana took long trips. Gordon stopped calling for holidays. Their parties shrank. A few neighbors mentioned seeing unfamiliar cars in the driveway, business partners from out of town. And then, a new request. Megan invited me over to talk. She sat me down at their granite kitchen island, hands folded perfectly in her lap. "We've been thinking about expanding," she began. "A new business, something that could really help the family. Lucas believes in it, but we're a little short, and you know the banks aren't as generous these days." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Would you consider co-signing a loan? Just for a little while to help us get started. Your family, after all." The room was so quiet, I could hear the clock ticking. My first instinct was to say yes. That's what I always did. But something made me pause. I thought of the overdue notice, the phone calls, the spreadsheets I'd glimpsed by accident. "Let me think about it," I said, surprising even myself. Megan's smile faded a fraction. "Of course, no pressure, Evelyn. We just want to give back someday. Build something big, something lasting." That night I barely slept. I ran the numbers in my head. If I co-signed and something went wrong, I could lose my house. Everything Bill and I had built could disappear. For the first time, I wondered what would happen if I simply stopped. A week later, Lucas called. He sounded distant, distracted. "Don't worry about the loan, Mom. Megan's parents are working on something. Just don't mention any of this to anyone, okay?" There was a strain in his voice I hadn't heard before. A kind of exhaustion I recognized from my own years alone after Bill died. Around that time, small things started breaking. My washing machine, the old porch steps. I asked Lucas if he could help, but he never had time. Megan sent a card for Mother's Day. "Thank you for all you do. We couldn't do it without you." The message was typed, not handwritten. It wasn't just about money anymore. The air in that house changed. The kids grew quieter. Lucas started drinking more, his temper short, and his answers vague. Megan grew brittle, her words clipped and formal. I saw cracks forming in their perfect world, but no one dared say the truth aloud. One afternoon, the twins hugged me at the door. "Grandma, are you coming to the beach with us this summer?" Megan cut in sharply. "We'll let you know. Things are busy." The little ones looked disappointed. "Daddy said you'd come." I forced a smile, my heart aching. And then, one night, a letter slid under my door. No signature, just a single sentence. "Don't trust everything they say, not even the ones you love." I read it 3 times, then tucked it in my drawer. I didn't know if it was a warning or a threat, but it unsettled me. More bills came. Lucas grew quieter. Megan's smiles faded. Even Diana seemed absent, sending gifts but never calling. The whole family was drifting, tethered only by a string of debts, unspoken fears, and things we all refused to say. If you've ever been asked for more than you could give, if you've ever felt the ground shifting under your family, tell me below. Because sometimes the lines you cross for love are the ones you can never uncross, and sometimes secrets left in the dark grow bigger than any one person can carry. The truth about families is that what isn't said usually matters most. The spring air felt heavy that year, thick with tension no one wanted to name. One evening in late May, Lucas showed up at my house unannounced. He looked thinner, shoulders hunched beneath an expensive jacket that didn't quite fit anymore. He lingered in the kitchen doorway, twisting his wedding band. I was making bread, Bill's old recipe, the kind Lucas loved as a boy. He watched me shape the dough in silence, the clock ticking between us. "Mom," he finally said, voice rough. "Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, you can't catch up?" I stopped kneading. "All the time, Lucas." I looked at him. "You want to tell me what's going on?" He shook his head. "It's just Megan's worried about appearances. Her parents. There's pressure. They think we're not living up. I thought things would be easier by now. Sometimes I think Megan regrets all of it." He trailed off, staring at his shoes. "I don't even know what all of it means anymore." I wanted to tell him it was okay to be tired, that the world didn't care if his house was the biggest or if the silverware matched the napkins. But he was already closing himself off, burying his fears beneath new anxieties. He left soon after, the bread half-baked. Days later, I got a call from the bank. There'd been a mistake, they said, a late payment on my own mortgage. A transfer I hadn't made. I checked my accounts. The money I'd set aside for my bills was gone, rerouted to a different account. Lucas's name was on the transfer. I sat at my kitchen table, heart pounding, unable to breathe for a full minute. I called Lucas. He didn't answer. The next day, Megan called instead, her voice sharp and efficient. "It was a mix-up, Evelyn. We'll fix it. Lucas is under a lot of stress." She didn't apologize. She didn't ask how I was managing. She just hung up. My house felt colder than ever. I started noticing more odd things. A bill for a credit card I never opened. A message from a debt collector asking for Megan. A strange car parked across the street. At church, Diana smiled with too many teeth. "I hope you're not upset, Evelyn. In our family, we help each other however we can." But the help started to taste like poison. I was lying awake at night, retracing every dollar I'd given, every secret I'd kept for Lucas. I realized I didn't know where helping ended and enabling began. Was I protecting my son or protecting the image Megan and her parents wanted for their world? I ran into my old friend Alice at the grocery store. She looked at me, really looked. "You don't seem yourself, Ev. If you ever need to talk." I almost broke down right there, but old habits die hard. "I'm fine, Alice. Just tired." I left before she could press. The kids' last day of school came and went. I watched from the crowd as the twins accepted awards for Most Kind and Best Helper. Megan barely acknowledged me, chatting with the principal, laughing a little too brightly. Lucas stood off to the side, checking his phone, as if waiting for an answer that never came. That night, a man in a dark suit rang my bell. He handed me a notice, official-looking, thick with legal language. "As a co-signer on the Bennett Home Equity Loan, you are responsible for any defaulted payments." I stared at the paper, my vision swimming. I remembered Megan's words. Just for a little while. "Your family." I hadn't even realized what I'd agreed to. Too trusting, too tired to argue. I tried calling Lucas again. This time he picked up. "Don't worry, Mom. I have a plan. Megan's family is working on something big. Just don't tell anyone, okay? It's better if nobody knows." "But Lucas," I started. "Trust me," he said, but his voice was brittle, ready to break. A week later, a story hit the local news. Ponzi scheme suspected in Millbrook subdivision. No names mentioned, just rumors swirling. That night, my porch light flickered. Someone had left a note under my doormat. "Families sink or swim together. Don't be the one who lets go." The weight of all those secrets, debts, favors, and silent expectations settled in my chest. Even Megan seemed more fragile now. Her voice higher, her words clipped. She started leaving the twins with me for hours at a time, without warning, without explanation. Sometimes they'd arrive hungry, their backpacks stuffed with paperwork and leftover party favors. The kids clung to me, asking questions I couldn't answer. "Why doesn't Daddy smile anymore? Why is Mommy always tired?" I told them everything would be okay. I wasn't sure I believed it. At night, I reread the legal notice, the overdue bills, the notes from strangers and friends. I thought of Bill, of everything we'd worked for. Everything I was about to lose. For the first time in my life, I considered saying no. If you've ever stood on the edge of a choice you never thought you'd make, tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to give more, but to stop before you disappear completely. The truth was growing louder, pressing at the walls. Secrets can't stay hidden forever. And I was about to find out just how much one family could lose before someone finally said enough. June arrived in Millbrook with storms that shook the windows and sent branches crashing to the ground. I stayed up most nights, waiting for the next call, the next emergency. The legal threats multiplied, letters, voicemails, strangers knocking at dusk. My hands, once steady in crisis, now trembled every time the phone rang. Lucas stopped coming by altogether. If I reached him at all, his words were clipped, almost robotic. "Working, Mom. I'll call you later." But later never came. Megan, for her part, grew thinner, eyes hollow, polite only when others were watching. When she did drop off the twins, she left fast, as if my house was a place she couldn't stand to linger. Then one Sunday, Diana Bennett came to my door. She looked different. Hair messy, pearls missing, voice too high. She handed me a box of old photographs. "Megan wanted you to have these," she said flatly, not meeting my gaze. "We're sorting things out. I hope you understand." She hesitated, then added, "If anyone asks, tell them you haven't seen us." She turned and walked away, leaving the door swinging open in her wake. The box was full of memories. Lucas at 7, Megan in her prom dress, the twins as babies. I sat on the floor, sifting through years, the ghosts of a family that no longer existed. Within days, the news hit harder. The police came by. No sirens, just polite questions. "Mrs. Harris, have you spoken to Lucas or Megan recently?" I nodded, heart pounding, unable to say more. They left, but the rumor stuck. "The Bennetts are being investigated, fraud, they say. Something about a pyramid scheme, money missing, investors angry." The words echoed in every hallway, every store aisle. I tried to call Lucas. Voicemail. I left a message, then another. "Please, Lucas, talk to me. Let me help." Silence. The next twist came not from the family, but from the community. Old friends turned cold. At church, I felt eyes on my back, heard the whispers. "Did you hear? Her son's in trouble. Her daughter-in-law, too." She must have known. Someone left an envelope at my doorstep. Inside was a single photo. Lucas as a boy, arms around Bill at the old baseball field. Scrawled on the back, "You didn't deserve this." I started to unravel. Sleep evaded me. I forgot meals, missed shifts, let the garden grow wild. My body felt foreign, my heart heavier each day. One evening, Megan appeared. She stood on my porch in the rain, hair wet, makeup gone. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We never meant for it to get this bad." She slid a folder into my hands, bank statements, emails, bills. "I tried to fix it, Evelyn. I really did. I thought, if we could just keep up, Lucas would be happy. He's so ashamed. He's hiding, not just from you, from everyone." I read through the folder. The numbers were devastating, debt far beyond what I imagined, lies layered over every transaction. I saw my own name, co-signed on more than one loan. Megan's signature everywhere, sometimes even forged. I sat down hard, the air gone from my lungs. "Why didn't you come to me?" I managed, my voice shaking. Megan broke. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "Your son, he wanted to save face. For me, for the kids, for everyone. But he just kept borrowing, just kept lying. Diana and Gordon helped cover it up until they couldn't. We all thought the next deal would solve everything." For a moment, I felt only anger. Hot, sharp, righteous. Then it passed, replaced by a deeper ache. "We're all to blame," I said quietly. "We all kept quiet. We all pretended. Now look where we are." Megan nodded, unable to meet my eyes. The next day, a social worker came to the house. "The twins needed somewhere to stay," she said, "just until things settled." I packed them lunches, tucked them into the guest room, held their small hands while they cried for their parents. At night, I watched over them, praying I'd find the right words to explain why everything good seemed to have come undone. The world outside grew mean. News vans parked on the street. Strangers asked for interviews. "What's it like, Mrs. Harris, being the mother of a criminal?" Neighbors who once waved now crossed the road. At St. Anne's, someone left an anonymous note in my locker. "You raised a liar." I carried the shame and the heartbreak, but I also felt something else growing, a hard, clear line of resolve. For too long I'd tried to save everyone but myself. I'd let my own life shrink to fit their emergencies, their secrets, their needs. But now, for the first time, I understood the truth. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're survival. With the twins asleep, I sat at my kitchen table, folder open, pen in hand. I called the bank. I called my lawyer. No more payments, no more loans, no more covering up. If you've ever reached the point where you finally choose yourself, let me know below. Because sometimes the bravest act is to stop being the family safety net and start being your own. There was still fallout ahead. There would be more pain, more judgment, more secrets dragged into the light. But I had found something worth keeping. Myself, whole and unashamed, for the first time in years. And in the silence that followed, I realized, sometimes the only way to save what matters is to let the rest fall away. The day Lucas surrendered, Millbrook was wrapped in storm clouds, as if the town itself were holding its breath for judgment. By then, I'd stopped caring about the neighbors' whispers or the news vans at the curb. My whole world had narrowed to the twins' small arms around my waist, and the echo of choices that could never be undone. Lucas came to the door in the gray dawn. No lawyers, no pretense. His clothes were rumpled, his eyes ringed with sleepless regret. He couldn't look at me. He stared at his shoes, voice so low I almost didn't hear him. "Mom, I ruined everything. I lost it all, and it was all for nothing. I wanted to make you proud. I wanted to belong somewhere, show Megan's family I was worth loving. I kept thinking if I just kept up, if I just worked harder, borrowed more, it would all work out. I lied. I lied to you, to Megan, to myself." I saw the little boy he'd once been, the one who thought saying sorry would fix a broken lamp or a scraped knee. But this was different. There was nothing left to fix, only the ruins to face. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I would give anything to take it back." Before I could speak, the sheriff's car pulled up. Lucas squeezed my hand one last time, then stepped out into the rain to face the music. There were no handcuffs, just resignation. I watched my son walk away, paying the price for every lie, every shortcut, every borrowed dollar. Inside, the twins clung to me, confused and quiet. I didn't have words to comfort them, only the truth, that sometimes love isn't enough to save us from ourselves. The Bennett house across the street was strangely silent. Megan hadn't visited in days. I saw Diana, her mother, sitting on the porch in a silk robe, staring at nothing. Gordon's fancy cars had vanished. The lights were out, the garden overgrown. Then, unexpectedly, Megan appeared at my door, pale and shaking, clutching the twins' old art projects and a half-empty bottle of wine. "I thought if I made everything look perfect, it would be perfect," she said, voice raw. "We kept hosting parties, buying things, inviting people who only stayed for the champagne. When everything fell apart, not a single friend called. No one cared. Not really." She looked around my modest kitchen. No granite, no designer chairs, just chipped mugs and warmth. "I thought Lucas could become one of us. That if we tried hard enough, spent enough, we'd finally belong. But all we did was chase an illusion. We pushed you out because you made us see what we'd lost." Tears ran down her face. "All I have now is my children. And you. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I wish I'd listened." Diana arrived soon after without her usual pearls or practiced smile. "Everything we built was a show," she admitted. "All those people gone in a heartbeat. We mocked your life, your values. But you were the only real thing in this whole town." We sat together in silence, 3 women from 3 different worlds, bound by grief and humility. For the first time, I saw Megan as she truly was. Not the polished hostess, but a lost young mother, scared and finally honest. Meanwhile, Lucas's legal fate unfolded quickly. He was charged with fraud and conspiracy, the judge offering a sentence of supervised probation, mandatory restitution, and community service. Years of rebuilding and repayment. The news splashed his name everywhere. But the real sentence was the weight of his shame. He wrote a letter from the county jail. "Mom, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to take care of the twins and to remember the boy you raised, not the man I became. I will spend every day trying to make this right. I don't expect your help anymore. I just want you to live and to love yourself the way you always loved me." In the aftermath, Megan, her parents, and I learned what it meant to start over. Diana sold her house. Megan took a modest apartment near mine, and the twins bounced between us, learning that home isn't made from money or parties, but from honesty and the courage to begin again. At church, the stares faded, replaced by nods of respect from those who understood loss and regret. The hardest part was forgiving myself for not stopping sooner, for thinking love meant always saying yes. That fall, I planted a new garden, letting the twins bury the first seeds. "Sometimes," I told them, "you have to dig through the dirt to make something beautiful grow." If you've ever lost yourself in the pursuit of belonging, or paid the price for chasing someone else's dream, tell your story below. We are more than the sum of our failures. Sometimes the hardest truth sets us free. One secret remains, tucked quietly in my drawer. The last check I never cashed. A reminder that the cost of love is never about money, but about the courage to let go. There's a kind of peace that only comes after the storm, a hush that settles once every secret is out in the open, every mask dropped. I found it one gray morning, pouring coffee in my quiet kitchen, sunlight spilling across the table, the twins laughing softly in the next room. For months, I'd carried the weight of our story, shame, regret, the ache of letting go. I worried I'd lost everything that mattered, my son's future, my family's name, my own sense of belonging. But when the dust settled, what remained surprised me. The twins, so resilient, began to heal in ways small and quiet. A smile over a puzzle, hands in the garden dirt, a question about their father that didn't end in tears. Megan, humbled and changed, asked for help, not out of pride or habit, but with honesty. And I, for the first time, started to accept help too. Alice bringing a casserole, Diana leaving fresh flowers, neighbors waving from their porches again. Forgiveness didn't erase what happened, but it made room for us to live again. The last secret I held wasn't money or scandal. It was a letter from Lucas, delivered after sentencing, tucked in an envelope of rough, uncertain handwriting. Mom, you were right. You taught me that true worth isn't measured by what you have, but by who you are when everything is stripped away. Thank you for loving me enough to stop saving me. It's my turn to learn. I'll earn my way back, even if it takes forever. Please tell the twins I love them. I sat with that letter for a long time, letting every word find its place in my heart. I realized the truest gift I could give, to myself, to my family, was the courage to let old wounds breathe and to open the door to what comes next. So this is what I want to leave you with. Sometimes love means holding on. Sometimes it means letting go. The hardest boundaries create the deepest healing for yourself and everyone you care for. If you've ever faced a heartbreak that forced you to choose yourself, I'd love to hear your story below. What helped you heal? Who showed up for you in the quiet afterward? And if you want more stories like this, of mothers, daughters, families falling apart and coming back together in unexpected ways, don't forget to subscribe, share, or leave a comment. Your voice might just be the hope someone else needs to start again. After all, the greatest gifts rarely come wrapped in ribbons. Sometimes they're as simple as a new beginning.